So for this assignment, we're doing the margins and masking assignment, right? So I'm going to go into the instructional materials, week 17 and day 35, right? Here is the margins and masking assignment. Okay. So for this one, we're going to be submitting a screenshot. Make sure I can see your rulers with the inches in the inches format, right? And your layers window as well, right? So to start off, we're going to be creating a custom page, right? 9 inches by 13 inches, right? That's the page we're going to be creating, right? And the page, once we create our page, it should look long, right? Like this. We're going to start by creating a layout, right? So the margin is going to be 1 inch, right? So it's going to be a pretty big margin, a pretty large margin. And then we're going to be adding this sequence, right? +1, which is the margin space, right? And then 3 inch, right? Which is the box space, right? So we're going to be using this sequence to finish our layout, right? After we finish creating our layout, we're going to be inserting pictures, right? We're going to be inserting a picture into each of the boxes, right? You can use the rectangle select tool. We're going to be doing some masking as well, right? I show you right here how to do it through the menu bar and how to just click on this button in the Windows layers window, and then it should do the same thing, right? Once we add the first picture, it should look like this, right? And at the end, here's an example, right? You guys are going to choose your own pictures. They should all look different, right? But let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Photopea link, right? I'm creating a custom page, right? It was 9 inches, right, by 13 inches, right? That's the numbers we're going to be using to create our page. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to click on New to create a new document. I'm going to change my pixels to inches. That's the first thing I'm going to do first because then it changes my numbers, right? So the first number was 9 and the second number was 13, right? 9 and 13. Okay. Once I have those numbers, I'm going to click on Create, and it should give me a long page like this, right? I'm going to zoom in a little bit, right? And there it is. Okay. Now that we have our custom page, right, we can see on this side that it goes from 0 to 9, right? And at the bottom, it goes down to 13, right? That's exactly how long our page is. So we're going to start off by creating a layout, right, with a 1 inch margin and a 3 inch box space, right? So there should be 6 boxes once we finish creating this assignment. Okay, so I'm going to put my first guide right at the 0, right? That's usually where we start off. I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to click on Add Guides because that's how we do it to add precise guides, right, in the precise area using certain measurements. Right? So my first guide is at 0, right? As you can see, I'm right at the edge, right? So if our margin space is 1 inch, right? 0 plus our margin space, it's usually what it is, right? Whatever number you add to 0, it doesn't change, right? So the first one's going to be 1, right? I'm going to put 1, I'm going to press OK. Okay? And it's going to move that guide from the 0 mark, which is at the edge of the page, to the 1 inch mark, right? As you can see on the ruler up here, it's at the 1, right? It's exactly where the 1 is, right? So from here to here, it's 1 inches, right? 1 inch. Okay, so we created our margin space of 1 inch, which is pretty big, right? So we added the guide at 1. This is where it is, right? So we added the first guide, right? Once we add the first guide, we're going to add the second one, right? I'm going to go back to View and add Guide. Okay, so we added 1. The next one is 3, right? It's 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, right? So we added 1, right? So we're not going to put in 3, right? Because if we put in 3, I'm going to put in 3, for example. It's going to put it right at the 3 inch mark on the ruler, right? But we don't want the guide to be at the 3 inch mark on the ruler, right? What we want is a 3 inch space from this guide, right, to the next guide, right? So if I go from 1 to 3, it's only 2 inches from here to here, right? And that's what we don't want. We don't want to create a 2-inch box. We want to create a 3-inch box, right? So how do we add that number? Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go to View, Add Guides, right? You're going to erase that number because that is incorrect, right? And you're going to add it, right? You're going to add 1 plus 3, right? You have to add these numbers because if not, you're going to end up somewhere different. Okay, so I have 1. 1 plus 3 is 4, right? I'm going to press OK. And now it's going to put it right at the 4 mark on the ruler, right? So now from the 1-inch guide, right, the one that's right here, to the 4-inch guide, right, we have 3 inches, right? 1, 2, 3, right? It's only at the 4 because we've added the margin space as well, right? So we're just going to continue using this sequence. 1 plus 1 plus 3 plus 1 plus 3, right? You're going to do the exact same thing to the vertical one, right? The vertical one is going to have 2 extra numbers than the horizontal one just because it's a little longer, right? So it's going to have an additional pair of guides down here, okay? So plus 1 plus 3 plus 1 plus 3, right? So the next one's going to, the next guide that you're going to add, right? You're going to do plus 1, right? Because that's the next one. Plus 1 plus 3 plus 1 plus 3, right? So you're going to keep adding the numbers until you add the guide, right? Until you get the right number and then you're able to add the correct guide at the right place, right? You're going to do the exact same thing to the vertical one, right? Plus 1 plus 3 plus 1 plus 3, except vertical is going to have 2 additional numbers, right? You only have to go all the way up to 9 for the horizontal, right? And for the vertical, you only have to go up to 13, right? The length of the page, okay? Once you add too many guides, it's going to start adding guides like out here, and we don't really need them out here. We need them on top of the page, right? So if they're out here somewhere, we don't really need them, okay? I'm going to press OK, okay? And it should look something like this once you finish, right? Right? So these are just dummy guides. I just added them just to have some type of reference, right? But they're not in the correct places. You have to figure out what the correct numbers are by adding the numbers, right? You're never just adding 1 or 3, right? Unless the first one, right? The first one you do have to add the 1 for the first one, right? But there should be no repeated guides. There should be no repeated numbers. They should always be a next number, right? Because you're just adding these numbers, okay? So once we've created our layout, right, it should look something like this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and look up a picture. I'm just going to look up rows, right? Okay. I'm going to take this one. I'm going to click and drag up to Photopea, and I'm going to let it go, right on top of this. Here it is, right? I'm going to make this a little smaller, right? Just because it's kind of big, right? I'm going to fit the first object. You guys are going to choose pictures, whatever pictures you guys want, right? Try not to use pictures of roses. Try to use something else, right? But try to keep it on the same subject, right? So for example, if I choose a rose, I'm just going to choose different colors of roses, right? But it could be whatever you guys want, something you guys would hang up on your wall, for example, right? So some things that you guys might like, right? Things that you guys wouldn't mind putting in here for your assignment, right? It's your assignment. It's your sort of a project, right? See which pictures you guys like the best and just insert them into each box, right? So I have this first box, right? Use the guides, right, to sort of just help you see where the image is going to get cut off, right? So I don't really need the edge of this picture. There's a little bit of petals over here on the side, but I can cut that off, right? As long as I have the majority of the picture inside, I'm okay, right? So once we have resized our image, if you guys don't know how to resize your image, these boxes should appear once you apply or add your image. But if not, you can just go to Edit and go to Free Transform, and the boxes should appear around your image, right? Just like this, so you can resize it. Okay. I'm going to go back into the Move tool, right? So we have our first image, right here. The first thing I'm going to do once I have my image, right, I'm going to click on the rectangle selection tool, right? We have to make a selection in order for us to make a mask, right? So the selection part is very important, right? You can't just tell the computer, can you just show me what's inside this guide, right? You kind of just have to tell it, right? So I'm going to use the guides, right, to make my selection. I'm going to put my selection right on top of the guides, right? I'm going to let go, right? And the selection is right on top of the guides, right? You guys can tell right here visually, right? There's a perforated line where the guide should be, right? Once I have my selection done, right, make sure that you do not skip that step because that is very important. We're going to apply a mask, right? So it's sort of like cropping, but you can take off the mask, right? Uncrop it in a sense, right here and there, right? So I'm gonna make my selection, right? I'm gonna show you guys 2 ways to create a mask on this image, right? We can go through the menu selection, right? So I'm gonna go to layer, right? Once I go to layer, I'm gonna go to raster mask, right? And I'm gonna click on reveal selection, right? If this is not highlighted, make sure that you're in the correct layer, right? Where the image is over here, and that you've made your selection, right? That you can see your selection. I can see my perforated line right here, okay? Once you have those 2 things, it should let you click on reveal selection. I'm gonna click on it, right? And it sort of just cropped my image, right? And that's all you need to do, right? I'm gonna step back. I'm gonna go to edit, step backwards. And I'm gonna show you guys how to do this another way, okay? An easier way maybe, right? So I still have my selection on my guide, right? On my image, right? So my selection is very important. It's still on there. It's still applied on there. Another way you guys can create a mask is simply by going to where the layers window is over here on this side and going to the bottom over here of the layers window, right? There's a little square with a circle at the center, right? If you click on that button, it will also create a mask for you. It's going to do the exact same thing. So I'm going to click on this button. I'm going to click on it 1 time, right? And it's going to create a mask. It's going to do the same thing, okay? If you guys can see on this side, it's created the image is on this side, right? And the mask is over here, right? Where the black is, that is where everything is hidden, right? It's hiding everything that's in black. The only thing that's showing through is the little square selection that you made with your rectangle select tool, right? So the only thing showing through is what is actually visible, right? So I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep selecting flowers. I'm just dragging images over from my Google search, dropping it in here, right? I'm going to make it a little smaller, right? I'm going to make it fit into this first square, just like that. I'll probably make it a little bigger, right? Once I'm done resizing it, I'm going to go back into the move tool, right? I'm going to use the rectangle selection tool, and I'm going to make my selection using the guides, right? Use the guides. The guides are there for a reason, right? They're there to help you, okay? I'm going to make my selection. I put the selection right on top of the guides, right? And I clicked on over here at the bottom of the layers window, and I'm clicking on the raster mask button, right? The square with the circle in the center. I'm going to click on it 1 time, okay? And there it is. Make sure you have your selection first. Make sure you're on the correct layer, right? Before you apply your mask. If not, you're going to apply a mask somewhere else. Okay. And you're going to keep doing this until you fill in all 6 of your circles, right? Once you finish inserting all 6 of your pictures, right? You are going to take a screenshot. Make sure that you have your rulers out, right? You're going to go to view, click on rulers, right? So they could come out. So they should be out here like this. And they should also be in the inches format, right? I'm going to right click, and it's going to let me change it to whatever measurement I want, right? So you just right click on top of the layers, right? And that's it.